2023 has been a great year for Simgot audio, especially after the release of the highly successful EA500, which was very well received and loved by many. They have been releasing quite a number of IEM after that, one after another, regardless of price point. I have yet to find one that I did not like. I have with me now another two of the newest IEM, which is the EM6L here and EA1000 formats. So let's just have a look at the configuration of these two IEM. Okay, as you can see on screen right now, side by side, this EM6L priced at 110 US dollar. It comes in this black box, and what you're gonna get inside, of course, the IEM itself already assembled like this. And looking at the construction here, it is entirely a black IEM made of plastic, but when I look closer, it is pretty much like a transparent black hard resin, quite solid, with the front faceplate here being metal. I think it's aluminum, all clad in black with simple decal. And what's more important is what's inside. So you're gonna have a hybrid IEM here with 5 driver configuration, one of them being dynamic driver and 4 of them balanced amateur. Okay, and it is rated fairly okay at 26 ohm with sensitivity of 119 dB. And this cable here, pretty much a very simple stock affair of high purity silver plated OFC cable, standard issue from Simgot, with this 3.5 mm single ended. Moving on to this EA1000, which is actually priced double the price of EM6L at 220 USD. You would understand immediately how do they differ. First, from the construction itself, the packaging and everything. This is definitely premium looking. And looking at the IEM itself here, when I hold this in my hand, first, the IEM itself constructed entirely of metal, pretty much similar to EA500, but definitely it offers a bit more of premium feel to it with this very lovely looking glass faceplate here with Simgot logo. Ergonomically, the design very well thought to be comfortable. I was able to wear this for a prolonged period of time. And just like EA500, it also comes with this detachable tuning nozzle, which I'll talk a bit more later. Okay, so what's inside this IEM? So let's just have a look here. This is designated as a dynamic driver IEM. How is it constructed inside? I have really no idea because it mentions there firmware, dual magnet, dual cavity, DD, and PR. So what is that PR? I will not pretend that I know what it is, but one thing that I do know, it took Simgot 3 years to develop the driver inside here, which was first started with EA2000. And then the second generation of that driver is inside this. So some exotic and unique technology coming from Simgot. The impedance rating for this EA1000 is very low at 16 ohm with a very high sensitivity of 127 dB. Okay, let's just have a look first at power driving these two IEM. Let's start with this EM6L here. You see, as noted earlier, with the impedance rating at around 26 and 119 dB of sensitivity, this EM6L is fairly easy to drive, already sounding great when attached to my Sony Xperia 1 phone here, Xperia 1 4, direct from the 3.5 mm single-ended 1 VRMS. I was able to enjoy the sound. It sounded full and wholesome, fun, engaging, definitely. But it does scale really well as I scale up the source as well. Using this, especially this Hebe FC6 here, my favorite dongle, all the way up to from iBasso DC04 Pro and even Centron Backport HD. And then it sounded the best when I attach it to my Burson Audio Playmate here, which is a 3000 milliwatt monster of a Class A amp. And as noted there, you would notice that on my PC, even if I set my computer volume at 100%, at low gain on this amp, the volume needed was just at around 10 out of 100 from a Class A 3000 milliwatt of amplifier. Crazy, right? And the sound was really awesome. Okay, but the story is slightly different on this EA1000 here. Okay, as noted earlier, the impedance rating is quite low and also the sensitivity being very high. So when I attached this EA1000 to my phone, Sony Xperia 1, which is not so powerful, I was already getting something which I would consider as highly resolving and enjoyable, musical, yet analytical sound. It is more than enough already when attached to this phone. And I do sense that it gets better with the resolution and the dynamic handling when I attach to something like this FC6 here, or even DCO4 Pro. But I observed something peculiar about it. Okay, it gets shouty and even edgy when I subject even more power to it, especially if I run DACPort HD on high gain for BRMS. I can confirm that when I attach it to my Burson Audio Playmate 2 here, even on low gain, I was forced to tune down the volume all the way to 1. As noted there, 1 out of 100 in order to make this usable, okay? And further, I need to tune on my PC here, the digital volume to 80% only, because some songs just appear too shouty. So my advice for this EA1000 is that if you have highly powerful source at your disposal, you probably find this a bit overbearing or overkill for the EA1000. Okay, now let's talk about the sound itself for these two IEM, starting with the tuning itself. I may not jot it down on my screen here, but let's talk about it. Starting with this EM6L. Okay, as you can see at the back of the box here, it already shows some of the graph. Okay, and obviously looking at it, just one look at it, I know this is V tune. In fact, classic V tune. Okay, and true enough, when I attach it to my phone, listen to it for the first time, this is some very exciting sounding V tune IEM with huge emphasis on the lower frequency and some emphasis on the upper frequency to make it exciting, and moderate presentation of the mid-range itself. Okay, when I switch over to EA1000, the sound tuning for this EA1000 is obviously tuned to be a bit more neutral sounding, a bit more mature with the presentation itself, mild V sound curve, and a bit more of presence to the mid-range itself. So that's pretty much the difference between these two. Now let's talk about note weight. I am happy to say that both of these IM I would regard as being rich sounding, okay, to the way they present the sound. And as noted there, you can see this EM6L being classified as rich and vibrant, and this EA1000 being classified as rich and dense. So what are the differences? Let's just start with this EM6L. If you like something which is rich sounding, energetic and fun, EM6L is the one that you want. If you want a bit more of moderation, maturity to the sound itself, yet rich sounding, EA1000 is the one to look for. Resolution. I am happy to say that both of these IEM here would be regarded as being analytical set, starting with this EM6L, which I have noted there being analytical and clean sounding. So if you love macro detail especially, and even micro detail, EM6L would be able to do it. And it gets even better when I switch over to EA1000 here. So a bit more of transparency and better resolution, because the tuning for this EA1000 is geared towards being neutral. So less coloration means that you're going to get to hear a bit more of detail from the resolution itself. As for dynamic energy, in relation to the note width, as I mentioned earlier, if you want exciting sound, you go for EM6L. This is meant for enjoyment especially, and for some exciting sounding music, especially electronic or even modern pop music, okay? When you don't care about transparency and accuracy, okay? And if you want a bit more of, let's say, maturity to the sound presentation itself, the dynamic energy being well controlled, harmonious flowing, EA1000 has it. There's maturity to the sound when you compare directly with the EM6L. Does not mean that this thing is not mature. It is geared towards different kind of sound appreciation. So this is a bit more euphonic. This is a bit more polished to the sound itself. As noted there, I classify this EM6L as being moderate with the upper frequency extension. It does have good sparkle and air to it, which is very important to me. So despite seemingly not very bright sounding, this EM6L offer very good decays the way it disperses the decay all the way to the highest frequency is very smooth. Okay, crisp and smooth, well balanced, and never offensive. I must admit that between the two of them, this EA1000 performs a bit better when it comes to upper frequency performance. It is definitely a bit more resolving and a bit more articulate with the way it presents the upper frequency. As noted there, it also offers good extension, good sparkle and air. The way it handles the treble will be largely dependent on what type of nozzle you attach to it. The differences between the nozzle, don't look at the color coding here. Just put it against the light like this, and you would notice that these three nozzles present three different type of density to the filtration of the mesh here. Okay, so if you attach the stock nozzle, it has a moderate thickness of mesh, which will offer a bit more of balance to the sound itself between upper frequency, mid-range, and lower frequency. But if you are a treble head and you need a bit more of resolution and energy and sparkle from the EA1000, you use the one with the least amount of mesh. So I think it is this probably the gold color one. Okay, and if you are sensitive to upper frequency, then my advice is to use the tuning nozzle, which offer a bit more of dampening to the mesh itself. It's thicker. You can clearly see that it is darker between the three. Okay, so attach that one. But this is something which you need to play on your own. Some people are very sensitive. Some people just need more treble. Okay, but any which way I look at it, I would definitely say that EA1000 has very good presentation when it comes to upper frequency. It is mature, it is smooth, and it is in fact very technically competent when it comes to that department. Moving on to mid-range, this EM6L, as noted there, I would classify that as being mildly colored and warmer sounding between those two, especially if you attach silicon tips nozzle to this. So what I'm trying to say is that when I listen to some of the songs which I have, especially when I subject it to some contralto vocal from Diana Krall, or even this soprano of Alison Krauss, I am hearing a sort of sound which I would consider as warmer. Okay, not exactly neutral, but it is very pleasant to listen to. The presentation of the mid-range itself is frontal enough despite being natively tuned as a V sounding unit. The instrument also sounded fast with the attack. There's good detail to it. There's good crispness to the sound itself. Okay, and it is never offensive with the upper mid range as well. And when I switch over to this EA1000, this EA1000 offer a bit more of transparency to the mid range. It is definitely less colored or close to being neutral. When I listen to the same thing, like I mentioned earlier, I am hearing the sort of sound which I would consider as being truthful and accurate to the how it was intended to be. And it also depends on the tuning nozzle again. So, meaning to say that if you choose the middle tuning nozzle between the three of them, you're going to get the best transparency among all three of them. But if you switch over to the denser and thicker tuning nozzle, surprisingly, this EA1000 tend to edge closer towards the performance of this EM6L. So what I'm trying to say is that if you want a bit more of organic touch to the sound itself and less metallic, you avoid the tuning nozzle, which is the one with the least amount of filtration. If you are a bass head, you love big bass, you go for EM6L. No doubt about it, okay? Out of the box, this EM6L offers prominent, commanding, punchy, and dominant lower frequency performance and presentation. Definitely the sort of V sounding bass you can expect from this EM6L, especially when using the stock silicon tips. Despite the dominance of the bass performance, it is nowhere near being loose or even boomy, okay? Even when subjected to the most bassy soundtrack that I have, electronic, coming from Massive Attack, or even from Russian Circle, I was able to enjoy it, to the fullest extent, even if I don't like, bassy kind of IEM. So definitely I would say that you like fast, tidy, and commanding, punchy bass, EM6L has it. Switching over to EA1000, it will be entirely dependent on what sort of tuning nozzle you attach to this IEM here. So we have three, okay, being provided. So definitely I would say that with the stock middle ground tuning nozzle, it is geared towards balance. So there's a good amount of neutrality to the sound itself. It is almost neutral, not exactly neutral. I can sense that there's a bit of, presence of mid bass itself, and very good presence also on the sub bass. But if you prefer a bit more of density to the sound itself, definitely you would want to switch over to the thicker nozzle, which will then suppress a bit more of upper frequency and emphasize a bit more on lower frequency. But in general, I would say that the performance of this EA1000 for the lower frequency is definitely very mature, fast, tidy, with very well balanced between mid bass and sub bass. As for sound stage, I'm just going to make it very simple for this 2IM here. I have attached it to different type of partners here, as you can see. Few dongles there, even my phone, all the way to this big amplifier here. What I'm hearing is something which I would consider as being normal sort of soundstage presentation. So what I'm trying to say is that it is not particularly wide or narrow sounding. It is just normal. If you love gaming, you love binaural sound, or even if you listen to holographic sort of electronic music, EM6L is the better performer when it comes to that aspect. Being a hybrid with 5 different type of driver, and the fact that this EM6L is tuned very well with the 5 driver being coherent to each other, it is definitely holographic and very engaging, especially when used for gaming. But when switching over to EA1000, all right, compared directly with this EM6L, this is a bit more traditional with the way it present the spatial staging, stereo type of presentation, which means that it is highly suitable for music, but may not be that quite suitable for gaming if you compare it directly with this EM6L. Rated and compared side by side according to Andy Odovort grading system. Okay, as you can see there, I have also jotted down Simgot EA500 for the sake of comparison directly with this EA1000. So let's talk a bit more on that, okay? One of the reasons that I put it there is because EA500, assuming that you have EA500 right now, okay, this EA1000 is a representation of improvement and refinement over what EA500 has started. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are an existing user of EA500 and you love it, and you are not comparing with these two side by side, I would say that you are not missing that much, okay? This EA1000 does offer refinement, but we are talking about nuances, okay? Small increment of improvement of what EA500 has offered. It does have a bit more of upper hand when it comes to upper frequency, depending on which nozzle you use or which tip you use, but you don't have to worry too much if you are an existing user of EA500, okay? And then, when we talk about EM6L, definitely I would say that between all of this listed here, this is for fun sounding IEM for those who love lower frequency performance, especially. Not so much on the upper frequency itself, but a bit more of exciting presentation of the lower frequency. And as noted there as well, a few other IEM which I am familiar with, have a look at it, and this is how it looked like. As mentioned earlier at the start of this video, 2023 has been a great year for Simgot Audio. They have been releasing quite a number of IEM, and I have yet to find any one of them which I would consider as bad sounding. Regardless of price point, there's something for everyone. And looking back at these two IEM here, I'm just going to put it this way. These two IEM are definitely tuned to cater for different kind of sound preferences and different kind of appreciation. For example, if you love lower frequency, you love big bass, you are a bass head, and you would want to have a bit more of moderate presentation when it comes to upper frequency, you go for EM6L. This is one very exciting sounding IM, which is fairly analytical while at it, okay? But if you want a bit more of neutrality, closer to being neutral, a bit more of resolution and technical competency, definitely I would say that EA1000 has it, okay? This is something which is a very well balanced IM and among the best you can find in the market right now at this price point.